Tonight, occupiers marched in support of Occupy Oakland and Scott Olson. This is October 26th, day 26 of Occupy Los Angeles, and you're watching Inside Out News.
Defeated! Join us! United! Join us, people! The people, united, will never be defeated! Our brothers and sisters were attacked last night! Are you going to sit around and not put your body on the line too? March with us! Put down what you're doing! Yeah. This is important!
Get out of your tents!
Get out of your tents! Stop what you're doing! March with us!
Tonight, a group of 100 occupiers went on a march from City Hall. They marched along Spring Street through Skid Row over to the Biltmore Hotel by Pershing Square, and with their final stop at LA Live. I followed the occupiers on this march. This was a march in solidarity with Occupy Oakland and Scott Olson, the Iraq war veteran who was hit by an object that was shot by the police into the crowd and is currently in the hospital in critical condition. The occupiers also marched around City Hall to try to bring the rest of the people in what they call Tent City out for the march. As we've been following over the last week and a half, there's been very little action on the part of Occupy LA. Marches have been anywhere from 8 to 40 people. This was really the biggest march that Occupy LA has seen in almost 2 weeks. It was entirely an impromptu march. It started as a vigil. There were occupiers who met over in the courtyard on the south side. They were lighting candles. It was a candle vigil that began the march. They marched around City Hall, and then they came back to the courtyard and announced to everyone that they needed to come out and march, that they needed to get out of their tents. So again, they marched around City Hall and they were calling people out. They were saying, get out of the tents, get out of your tents, come and march. And from there, that is when they left City Hall and began their march through downtown LA. I was with the marchers the whole time, throughout their whole route, and as we were getting close to Skid Row, well, when we started the march, there was a gray sedan that had been following the occupiers from City Hall, and we were documenting that. I was filming them, I was filming the marchers. As we got close to City Hall, I don't really know what street we were on exactly, but we were near Skid Row, and the police officer started saying to get on the sidewalk, get off the street. I was filming, I turned to film the police who were just right up against the occupiers as they were marching, and I turned and I had my camera on the police officer, and I was walking slowly because I was filming, and the police officer decided that he was going to arrest me. I said I was press. I held up my press badge. He said he was detaining me for not being on the sidewalk. As much as I could tell, I was in the crosswalk heading to the sidewalk.
Get on the street.
I'm press.
Get out of the street. Get out of the street.
Hey, I have a right to film you.
Back up.
No,
Back up. Relax.
stop.
Hey, why are you taking her? Why are you taking her?
I haven't done anything wrong. I'm press.
You're detained. You're detained.
The other police officer, he told me it's okay, you can go. So I walked back over to the sidewalk and joined the occupiers there. It was also filmed by the occupiers who were on the march. So they did not try to arrest anybody else. I was the only one that they attempted to arrest. Unfortunately, they picked a member of the press and not an actual protester. So from there, they went to the Biltmore. They chose to march to the Biltmore because they felt that was a symbol of the elites, of the 1%. It's a ritzy hotel here in Los Angeles. It has a history of attracting wealthy people. From there, they took a vote. Some of them wanted to come back to the General Assembly. Some of them wanted to continue to LA Live. Majority voted for LA Live. By then, some of the occupiers had chosen to go back, and the group probably came down to about 50 occupiers at that point. Some people were tired. It was they had been marching for over an hour. From there, so what was left of the group headed over to LA Live. At LA Live, there was a private show going on. There was Ferraris, very expensive sport cars, people well dressed. There was a red carpet, and it was totally unexpected, unplanned that this red carpet was going to be there. The police were following the marchers through there. There were police escorts as the marchers went through LA Live. They went in. They wanted to go further into LA Live, but it was a private party, so the occupiers chose to follow the rules, and as their goal was not to be arrested, it was simply to bring their message of solidarity out to the public. So they marched through a side street and then back out, and then from there they headed back to City Hall. I was also again asked by a police officer while we were at LA Live to turn off my camera. I said I'm with the press. I showed him my press badge. He said this is private property. And I said, well, you know, this is my First Amendment right, and I read the First Amendment, which is on the back of my press pass. So I continued filming. They didn't stop me after I had read the First Amendment to them. This morning there was a city council meeting, and the occupiers called an emergency action. About 30 of them went over to the city council because Bill Rosenthal, he is on the city council. He also was one of the co-sponsors of Resolution 33 that was passed about a week and a half ago that said that the city council was in support of Occupy LA. Well, Bill Rosenthal, he made a statement to the LA Times or to KABC Channel 7 News, local news station here, that the idea was good of the occupiers, but that it was time to move on, that they should take their message elsewhere. Also today, Mayor Villaraigosa made a statement saying that he felt that the occupiers should not be here, that he was going to work with the city council to find another location for the occupation to exist. He expressed concerns in regard to the grass. A lot of the grass is dead now. Concerns about the trees. He says the sprinkler system no longer works, which was also a concern of city council member Rosenthal. But the occupiers have countered with their own press release, and they've chosen very careful words to say that, you know, they are friends of the mayor, they are friends of the city council, that the city council supports them, and that they will do what it takes to keep the grass healthy once they leave. So that is the latest for today. There was also a General Assembly meeting today that broke up into two groups. One was a group that chose to actually hold a General Assembly, and another was a group that felt that people needed to get to know each other better, that they wanted a type of open mic. There's a lot of discontent with the situation here at Los Angeles. There's a lot of inaction. There's a lot of stalled committees, stalled resolutions trying to get through the GA. So there was some lack of unity tonight in that regard. The people from the GA did come back over and rejoin the group here. Someone made a statement saying that they would like to reunite. And just yesterday, Tom Morello was out here. We got an interview with him. We talked to him a bit about what he's seeing around the various occupation sites, so we'll go to that right now. So you've been around the country in the last couple of weeks visiting the various occupations. What would you say is a unifying theme that you've seen in your travels?
One thing that unifies the Occupy movements is that they're growing. Another thing is I've seen a lot of young people, many of whom are going to a protest or demonstration for the first time in their lives. People seem to be inspired by global events of social justice movements, from the Arab Spring to the protests against the austerity measures in Europe. They feel they're part of something that's happening on a global scale that's creating change.
And what do you think the organizers need to do to maintain the numbers? I know having celebrities or well-known names come by certainly brings in people, but in terms of the long term, what do you think they can do?
Well, I mean, I think it's up to, for each Occupy to decide for itself what they're going to do to sustain itself. I think that a challenge is going to be the Occupy Valley Forge winter, which is ahead of us, in a lot of places where the weather is going to be, it's going to present a tactical problem for the occupies. But I think that it's, that's a time to get creative and find different ways to maintain the momentum, because come spring, when we're in sort of the electoral fervor, when the Wisconsin governor recall is going to be in full spring, there's going to be a tremendous amount of torque, and I think that's going to be a very historic American spring next year.
And now, being a musician, you've worked a lot with the media in terms of publicity. Do you have any suggestions for occupiers and ways to get positive media rather than media attention solely because arrests are happening?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't necessarily think it's always bad that you get attention because arrests are happening. That's one of the things that made the movement first appear in the media after people were pepper sprayed in New York City, and then when 700 were arrested crossing the Brooklyn Bridge, that's when America found out about it, and other occupies began sprouting up. There's now over 1,300 around the continent, so we're doing something right, and it's definitely tapping a nerve. I'm sorry, you asked a specific question that I've forgotten while I was yammering on.
Well, I just mean, is there any way that they can bring more positive news attention aside from arrests?
Yeah. On the one hand, I'm not certain that positive news attention is important or going to be a difference maker. You have to keep in mind that the people that own and control the major corporate media outlets are part of the 1% who we are threatening. We are advertising that we're threatening. One way to have more positive news coverage is to cover it ourselves, which is what you're doing here.
Right. And the only reason why I asked that is because Occupy Los Angeles, for example, has had no arrests and therefore has very little media attention. In fact, Chris Matthews forgot to put Occupy LA on the map when he was covering the various occupation sites, as they're not there if they're not getting any attention. So I'm just wondering, like, maybe even specific for Occupy LA where they have no arrests.
Yeah, well, there's a truth to some truth in Gil Scott-Heron's, decades-old song, "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised." It doesn't matter that it's not on CNN. It's happening.
All right, thanks a lot, Tom. There isn't anything planned for tomorrow, at least not anything in the official calendar. It looks like seems like a bit of a turning point for Occupy Los Angeles. The support seems to be waning within the city. The police, we'll see what happens over the next couple of days, over the next week, whether or not the occupation will still have a peaceful coexistence with the city and the police. Obviously, tonight was a unique thing that happened. It's certainly a change in the tone on the part of the city, and we will see the occupiers say they will remain here. They will not move from City Hall, even if the City Council tries to. So we'll see what happens. We'll be back tomorrow, and we'll let you know if there's a report then. So this is Margot Paez signing off for Inside Out News. Good night.